Good morning, everybody. We are going to be working today in Unit 12. We're coming back from the Thanksgiving holiday, and I hope you guys had a good holiday. I know I did. Pretty low-key, which I enjoy. But we're going into Unit 12, and the fun little title I have for this one is Learn More About How You're Going to Learn. What and how you're going to learn. So learn more about what and how you're going to learn. And the reason I do this unit, and this is one I've done in the orientation class since I've been teaching it here at Gateway, kind of ties into the conversation we were having before I hit record on this video, is now that you're nearing the end of that first semester, and hopefully you're taking this in your first semester, I do get, the funny thing is I do get a number of students that do all their web courses and then take the orientation at the end, which makes like 0 sense. So this is a really good course to get out of the way first. The whole design of this course is to get you ready to be in all the other courses, right? And if you're already full-time, you're kind of in that mode. So you're taking your Python class, your Java class, your Web 1 class, and one of the math classes. That's like the full-time track, plus orientation. But we're finishing first semester, and now we're going into second. So for those of you that are full-time, you need to be looking forward at what you're learning. And where do you get that information? Well, pretty simply, you get it from the Gateway website. So I have a little link on my toolbar here that takes me right there, just gtc.edu. And if you haven't done this, you ought to do this for yourself. And I'm going to give you a really important tip here. Because when you guys sign up and declare a degree when you start, you say, okay, I'm going to be an IT web software developer or IT web programmer. It's one of those two that you guys are in to be in this course. Otherwise, you would not take this course at all. So I know with a high degree of certainty it's one of those. The other one that's, where there's some overlap is the data analytics, but we'll talk about that later. But the core degree is the IT web software developer degree. And I'm going to tell you what, it's really important for you to know the title of your degree. And I do get some people that get this confusion between the software degree and the web software developer degree. Up until last year, we just called it web developer. And the state stepped in and said, well, you guys do so much software development in your thing that you have to call it web software developer. They're trying to make it like a statewide unified thing based upon what we're teaching. So there are some schools in the technical college system that have web designer degrees, and those are different than web developer degrees. We have a little bit more software focus, which for you is a benefit because it's a lot more employable, frankly, especially with high rates of pay. But this is a page that you guys need to be familiar with, and most importantly, because you have declared degrees, you need to go in here, and right down here at the bottom, they have a listing of all the program courses, right? And they have them, and this is a revamped website. This version of the website came out this summer, I think, and it's a little bit of an improvement over what it used to be, where they actually kind of list each one of the courses, and they have these little expando boxes that pop down. Very simple JavaScript trick, by the way. Not really a difficult thing to code. And it goes through and it shows you all the different stuff that you're supposed to take. And you can see all the, oh yeah, I guess there's psychology, you got to take that too. And here's this class. But more importantly, really, is this curriculum sheet, which is the PDF version of your degree. Here's the thing that happens. As we go from year to year, this document changes. Now, if you use the self-service thing inside of WebAdvisor, you guys will discover that it'll kind of map it out for you electronically. But if you don't make a copy of this PDF, it's going to go away in June. And then the new one comes out, which is going to be a little different. And in fact, the new curriculum sheets that they're working on, they're going to have a full-time version and a part-time version, because they've realized here at Gateway that we actually, about 90-some% of our students, I think it's about 95, something like that, some crazy number like that, are part-time. Very few people are full-time. Now, in the IT programs, we tend to have more full-timers during the daytime classes because they tend to be, they skew younger in the age group. And that's absolutely fine. So most of you sitting in the classroom here today are full-timers, but a good chance that people that'll watch this video next semester, because I'm teaching a section of this next semester, will be part-timers, or even in a different category, they might be certificate people, because we are now offering what we call our IT full stack web developer certificate officially. And you know, if you're in one of those tracks, you know, you have a kind of like a different view. So this will disappear, but this is still the plan that you're following, even if it disappears from the website. So that's why I think it's a really good idea that you make a copy of this, heck, even print it out, and just have it. And that way you can look at yourself and just say, okay, this is my first semester, I'm a full-timer, I completed all of these courses, and then next semester I need to sign up for these. And I'm hoping, as you guys hear this, being at the end of a traditional semester, you guys have already signed up, right? Our semester here at Gateway, and I'm just going to give you the reality check again, and I think I did this last time, is here's our calendar. Right now, we're sitting on December 6th. Our semester ends next Friday the 13th, the lucky number, right? And we just happen to have a Friday class, so it ends on December 13th. But if you look forward on the calendar just a little bit, we have our Christmas holiday. The campus is completely closed this week, the week of Christmas, and up through the 1st of January, and reopens on the 2nd. So if you don't get yourself registered by the 20th, you're going to be waiting until after the holidays, and then, God forbid, have to stand in line or whatever. And you know, you don't have to do any of that, right? You can do all the registration stuff online. Sometimes, though, if you're not sure about what to take, then you're forced talking to an advisor. And guess what happens right before the semester start with advisors? They're so crazy busy, they really don't have time to see you. You have to set up appointments, and then you might have to wait for hours, and then maybe you only talk to them for 10 minutes. You know, it can be a frustrating process. So it's really, really wise, as each semester rolls by, that you guys are aggressive about registering as soon as you possibly can, especially if you have your plan in place. All right, so let's say you've got your plan in place. All right, that's already settled, and you looked at this curriculum sheet, and you looked at whatever academic plan that you've set up, and let's just hypothetically say you guys are all full-timers. So next semester, you will be looking at this second block of classes. So you're going to take JavaScript, you're going to take databases, Java Programming 2, most likely with me. I'm the one who teaches that most often, PHP, and English. So those are the 5 courses. And I'm going to tell you what, I think all of them are pretty challenging courses. And you need to have a plan for how you're going to attack those. Now in the web program, we've been given the green light now that instead of just having evening and online offerings, we also have daytime offerings. So all of you here in the classroom today that are taking daytime offerings will have the option to take all of these during the day next semester. Believe it or not, the ones that are probably the most difficult to get into are not the IT courses, but the Gen Ed courses. And let me explain why. The Gen Ed courses, especially the base level English and math, psychology, economics, tech reporting, I'm just trying to think of all the stuff that's on our thing. Guess what? Just about every program has students take those courses. So there's a lot of competition to sign up for them. Okay, so if you're not aggressive about picking, let's say, a daytime offering of English for next semester, but you're taking all your other stuff during the day, and you don't sign up soon enough, you might lose that opportunity to be able to take it during the day. With the IT courses, we usually make accommodations for students. So for example, let's say my Java 2 class fills, and it might, okay? So, and then you might be able to petition me. You could just send me an email and say, hey, I didn't get to register. Is there any chance you could squeeze me in? And if you're an online student, the answer is almost always yes. If you're face-to-face, like in this format, or blended as we call it, the chances for that are variable, frankly. It depends on the classroom. In some classrooms, we actually have more than 18 seats. And in some circumstances, the classes are in a format we call stacked, where it's connected to an online section, and there are open seats in the classroom, and all it takes is permission from the dean to allow you to sit in the seat, even though the whole thing is technically full. So if you can imagine, like right now we have how many in class? We have 4, 7, Ethan's online, so technically 8. But if it was a full section tied to an online thing, all the other seats are still populated with people online. And I think that's kind of interesting and something that you should plan around. The thing that you want to do, though, is as you look at these courses, there's a very good chance if you're brand new to this stuff, you may never have heard of any of these technologies. Now, in the Web Programming 1 class later today, we are going to step into Chapter 14, so you're going to get an introduction to JavaScript. So you have a little bit of a preview of what you're going to learn in that class. But in terms of the other classes, those are like kind of like gray areas for you. You might not know anything about PHP. Well, you might know something about Java if you're going into Java programming too, because obviously you have to take that course first. But databases, you might not know anything about that. But all these technologies that you're learning next semester are really, really important ones. And you see the little graduation caps that are sitting in that column? That's an indicator that those are what we call milestone courses, meaning like those are really probably the most important courses in the degree in terms of the material within them. Like you really can't move forward unless you've kind of got those skills under your belt. That's a pretty significant number of classes too. Not all programs have so many milestone classes, but we learn so many different technologies that it really becomes kind of important that you succeed at these things. Now, the other thing that you do moving forward is you start to look at that column marked requisites. And there's 2 different kinds of requisites. There's a prereq and a co-req. So I think you guys probably understand what this means, but I think it's good to explain it anyhow. A prerequisite means that you must have successfully completed the course listed here in order to take the course in this column. So for example, to take JavaScript next semester, you must have successfully passed Web Programming 1. Because when you go into JavaScript, they just assume you know your HTML and your CSS and you're ready to roll with it. They're not going to go back and tell you what a paragraph tag is. I know that the book has like a half a chapter on like, hey, this is HTML5, good luck. That's how the book is written. And a lot of the books are like that when we have prerequisite information. So the other thing that might happen is maybe you'll say to yourself, oh my God, you know, I really struggled with programming this semester, and now I've got 4 programming classes to take next semester. It really is 4 programming classes. So what can you do as a student to prepare yourself? This is really what this unit is about. And so if I find the right course shell here we go. And that's what this is about. So before you get there, the semester hasn't started yet. And I know you guys are all worried about projects, finals, and all that stuff. But when the semester ends, you owe it to yourself to be a little bit smart and look forward to what you're going to do next. It's never too late to do that. I mean, even if you just do it an hour before class starts, it can help. But the sooner you do it, the better off you're going to be. I always look at my instructors, for example. I was talking with Christopher yesterday. I know some of you have Christopher as an instructor, potentially. And he's already got his course shells ready for next semester. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even caught up with grading yet. You're doing your course things for next semester? Yeah, because he's being smart. Because that way, when the holidays roll around, he's got the whole time off. He's already prepared, right? So my suggestion to you is this. Look forward to the classes you're going to take. Buy the books now and read the first chapter or 2 of each book. Or hop up online and start doing some research. What is JavaScript? What is a database? And just start educating yourself, even on a superficial level. That way when you walk into the class and the instructor throws out a concept at you, you won't feel like a deer in the headlights. It'll be more of like, the switch is turning on, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm being cold cocked with this new information that I know nothing about. And, with that list of stuff that you're going to learn, your JavaScript is its own language. Databases has a language called SQL. With Java programming 2, you're going to be stepping away from console programming into web, database, and GUI programming. And PHP is a whole nother language too. So you got to wrap your head around 4 different languages at once that you're going to be learning. So that's not a small amount of stuff to learn. So the topics really for this unit are how we use technology in the classroom, getting yourself ready to work with tech. All right. So those are kind of more like general things. We're also going to look at the difference between taking a class in the classroom and taking courses online, because there is a difference. And then finally, the topic that I've already been talking about is looking forward to what you're going to learn. And I think that, frankly, I think I've said enough about that already. You guys are intelligent people, I think, at this point, and I think that anybody who's really interested in technology, and I hope that is you guys, because I think you tend to do better in this field if you embrace technology. I mean, I don't think you'd be here otherwise, right? But maybe you're just doing it because the paycheck looks good, right? Some people do that, right? But they're not really tech people. It doesn't mean you can't become one. You have to have this natural thirst in knowledge and attitude for oh wow, look at this piece of technology. I can figure it out. I can figure out what to do with it. I can figure out how to program it. I can figure out how to use it. I can figure out why it's useful or why it's not useful. And that's a mindset I can't necessarily coach into you, but I can give you some strategies. And that's really kind of my goal here today. So let's move down to this first activity listing here. And I'm just going to kind of rifle through this stuff really quickly. It talks about a lot of different topics, and I'm going to try to make the screen as big as I can and use this kind of as my informal PowerPoint. So you see this is entitled Considerations for Learning with Technology, and this is kind of a combination list developed by myself over time, and then Wendy Revelinsky has thrown some of her stuff in there too. And I think we have a nice list built now of things. So let's start with the computer literacy thing. Has anybody walked into this classroom, and I'm going to say this is probably a no, and never touched a computer before? All right, great. That really does make my job a little bit easier, but you know what? That's a standard question I ask, because whenever I would teach intro-level IT courses here at Gateway and at other schools, that would be a question I ask. And over time, the percentages have changed really clearly. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I first started doing this, I'd ask that question, and believe it or not, I get like a 50-50. 50%, well, I kind of saw my son using a computer once or something like that, right? I played video games, does that count? That kind of thing. Or, I remember my very first semester here at Gateway where I had a student never touched a computer before, and here she is using Visual Studio, doesn't know how to right-click, copy-paste, type, or anything, right? But you know what? She did finish the program and got her degree. So it is absolutely possible, and she has a really good job now. So I think that that's important. But when you walk in, I think you need to start thinking about your computer literacy skills. And the reason I bring these topics up is because we used to include in our program this course called IT Essentials, where you'd be on the other side of the hall with the hardware people, tearing apart computers, loading operating systems, connecting to a network, troubleshooting Windows and other devices. And we removed that from the program so we could get more programming into it, because that's what our advisors told us to do. But I still think it's really important that even if you're a programmer, that you should wrap your head around basic computer literacy skills. So that means if somebody says, hey, I got an i5 processor that's an 8th generation and it's running at 3.2 gigahertz and blah, 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 that doesn't completely mystify you what that terminology is. You don't have to become an expert overnight, but what you should do is start reading articles all the time and just looking things up on YouTube, on Wikipedia, whatever. Anytime somebody throws an acronym at you or a concept at you you've never heard, you should be researching it. I mean, you got your phone in your hand, right? Just pick it up. What's a CPU? Oh, okay, yeah. Now, next time I can pretend like I actually know what I'm talking about. But you know what? That process of research and learning is something that's going to be ongoing for you guys. But look at this list that we have here. All right, so as far as we're concerned, we think that you should have at least these skills. How computer hardware and software work. Okay, you don't have to know it on the electronic level, but you should know how to like turn it on, boot up, you know, how to start a piece of software, do some work, shut down, save a file. All right, how to create folders, subdirectories, file names, and file extensions. Right, we did some of that here in this course. How to troubleshoot basic computer problems. Don't ever ignore have you tried rebooting? Or is it plugged in, right? You'd be amazed how often that is really the solution. How to update systems. And these days it's pretty easy. Like for example, I know right now I have an update pending, and often all it is, you know, choosing this update and restart or update and shut down from your menu. But why do we even bother updating a computer system? Security is the number one reason. Also, sometimes programmers write programs and software and they screw up if things aren't working right. So sometimes the updates are just to fix problems. So usually they say that if your operating system and your software is kept up to date, you have far less problems with all sorts of issues, provided your hardware can support it, right? So if you have a really old machine and you're running Windows 10 on it, but it can't really handle it, you know, that's kind of a separate issue. Okay, you should be able to assess, install, and update security software systems. Like what? Antivirus, for example. And we should talk about antivirus a little bit. A lot of us consumers will go out, we buy a PC off the shelf and pick a retailer, you know, whether it's like Walmart or Sam's Club or Best Buy or Amazon or whatever, and you buy what we call a consumer grade machine. It will usually come preloaded with some sort of antivirus suite. It'll be free at first, and then after a couple of months, it's like, now you got to pay. Okay, so let me give you a piece of advice. Just uninstall it. In fact, the first thing I do if I ever have like a commercial antivirus package on my machine is I just uninstall it. And you guys are like, what? Right, because Windows now has it built in. So if you have Windows 8 or above, they have their own antivirus tool built in called Windows Defender. And frankly, it is as good as the other products, and it's a whole lot quieter, and it never asks you for money. Is that the only thing that you should use? Frankly, no. I think on occasion it's good to download some free products that are out there and do scans on your system. My favorite tool is Malwarebytes. I just use the free version of that, have for many years, and I have a couple of other kind of more underground kind of tools I use for clearing stuff off of systems. But really the best way to keep your system clean, folks, is to not click on stupid stuff. Like if you go to a website and you're looking at an article and there's like ads and videos all over the place, and there's like this article on the side, it's like, hey, check out this, like, you know, alligator man or something, and you click on, you know, it's clickbait, right? They're trying to get you to click on it. That's how you get into those situations. Yes?
Can you like explain the difference of like a VPN and antivirus? Like,
The difference between VPN and antivirus? All right, well, first of all, completely different categories. When you get a virus on your computer, it's basically some malicious piece of software that's doing something to your system that you don't want it to do. It might be stealing your passwords. It might be encrypting your files and holding them ransom. Or, I don't know, there's so many different things it can do, nasty things. VPN is what we call a virtual private network, and VPNs are used to privatize network traffic so that you can bypass security. So for example, I can't look at like pornography on campus. If you even like Google a bad word here, it just locks you out. It just says filtered, blocked, and the other risk that you run is that you get locked out of the network and can't even use it. So you could use, and I know a lot of high school students are really clever with this because they learn on their phones at school. They can like Google basic stuff, but they can't like do YouTube in some cases. So you load up what you call a VPN, which creates an encrypted network tunnel to a server outside of the facility that then allows your traffic out to the internet, so you can bypass all the security. Some people use VPN to log into the work network. So like when you are working on some of our server resources here at Gateway for the web program, just for example, if you're doing database connections, you have to connect with VPN first because we don't allow external network traffic to access our database servers. But if you VPN into Gateway, then you can access our database servers. Completely different categories. So a lot of people use VPN to do nefarious things, but a lot of people use VPN, for example, for very legitimate work reasons. So a lot of, like Gateway wouldn't allow our personnel to log into information that might be sensitive on campus. So like, let's say your registration information, without first establishing a private network connection which encrypts the traffic to make sure it's safe in transit. Viruses are just malicious software intended to do harm. Okay, and really the best defense against that, folks, buy a Mac. No, that's a joke. That's actually not much of a joke. That's pretty true. Macintoshes very rarely get infected because most viruses are designed for PCs. But not to click on things errantly. To look at an email. I can show you an email we got here at work yesterday. I'm going to tell you what, I was a little suspicious of it. Right here. It says, action required, employee benefits survey. All right, and I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. It's not coming from any particular person. I hover over the link and I look down at the thing here and read the address bar in the bottom right when I hover over it, all the way on the left side of it. You see it? It says malware bouncer. And you know what? I almost clicked on it, and I'm pretty clever, and I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm clicking on that. And in fact, I left it marked unread because I was going to throw a message out there. Now, usually somebody else will pick it. So right now, I don't see any messages that say, ignore that message. So it might actually be real. But I'm going to ask before I click on it. I'm just not going to go clicking on it. Or if you get like a message from a friend that says, hey, check out this cool link I found. Do you guys ever get one of those?
Yeah, I also got one that says your gateway password was, you need to change your gateway password.
Yeah. Be really, really careful about stuff like that because Gateway will never send you emails like that. Now, I get ones about my password because I have to change it so often, but be really careful. And the best thing to do is really educate yourself and don't click on something. If it's even remotely suspicious, don't click it. If you are getting emails from people that say, hey, check out this cool link I found, right? That seems out of the ordinary. It probably is, and it means that they are infected and their machine is being used to send spam. So that's really your best defense, all right? The other things here is how to figure out or teach yourself how to use new programs or applications. And the better you get at IT, the more intuitive it will be. So every time you go into a new class, you're going to have to learn new IDEs. So you'll kind of ramp up that skill. How to integrate and utilize features of a wide range of programs and applications. If you guys don't know, like the Microsoft Office Suite, for example, we don't teach it in our program. But can I tell you what? It's critical that you know it, even if we don't teach it. So how are you going to learn it? There's plenty of stuff out on the internet, lynda.com, et cetera, et cetera. So please do that. All right, let's look at the next category here, the internet and its resources. And I say here, there's so much information out there. What are your search strategies? Now, I think we did a little bit of demo in the Web 1 class of doing some search things. But whenever you do a search online, folks, you need to be really critical about how you look at the search results, and I think more importantly, how you enter your search results. and where the results are coming back from. Do you just click on the first thing that comes back? Well, sometimes. I think Google's actually pretty good at giving you relevant content, but sometimes not. So you need to like look at whatever your search results are critically and figure out what's good and what's not. The other thing I always tell students is when it comes to IT, 5 years ago is old news. Not that it's not relevant, but you're always better off looking for stuff that is as new as possible. And if you're not familiar with it, I don't know, let's just pick a topic here. Antivirus, right? And what I might do is choose this tool thing, come up to the anytime thing here, and this is actually a selector. What about if I'm getting, antivirus information from the past month? That's pretty current, right? So now there's some ads and there's obviously all these different things. But I'm more apt to get better information from links that are brand new because they're current. IT, old stuff is old hat, might not be relevant anymore. You could Google HTML stuff, and I used to get this all the time in my classes, especially intro-level web classes, where people would Google how to do stuff, and they'd be pulling back old versions of HTML, and they would be put, like, in their body tag, they'd put in, like, BG color for background, which worked, like, 20 years ago. It's not considered current anymore. And yeah, it still kind of works, but it's the wrong way to do it. Or I see them using a font tag, and I'm like, HTML doesn't support the font tag anymore. Only in legacy mode, So be careful about how you Google and what results you bring back. All right. So the questions here, what resources are available? Are they reliable? Who created the content? If you go to a website that's owned by a private company, they're dictating to you what they think and want you to buy. Versus an independent news organization that's researched, edited, verified, etc. Is it current? Is it complete? Is it relevant to your work? Is this really the thing you're looking for? And is the information unbiased? And I'm going to tell you what, it's very difficult to find unbiased information out there, folks. Everybody's got a bias. That's why you owe it to yourself to look at as many resources as possible to really get a good answer. I can't say enough about that. All right. Let's talk about this topic, which for people that work in electronic environments is a pretty big one, plagiarism. There was a time where, I think back to, my days of being a student, especially initially, when I would type papers for college on a typewriter, and then what a revelation it was to switch to a word processor, even though it was on an Apple IIe, and then be able to copy, paste, and move stuff around. But you would still have to do research. But I just couldn't do it online. I had to go to the library. I'd have to go like card catalogs and look up stuff in like databases and then pull it up on microfiche and photocopy it and then, do all your citations by hand, manually. And you guys don't live in that era. What everybody does now is nobody goes to the library anymore. And if they do, it's online. But you just hop up online and you find an article or a website and you think that's good. I'm going to tell you what, it's not always good. Because you got to look at the sources from where they got their stuff. And for as much as we might make fun of, for example, Wikipedia, I don't know, pick a topic here, And I know they're doing a campaign right now, so if you go to visit them, they're begging for money. Which is fine, but I don't know, just pick any topic. I'm randomly picking a topic here. The thing that's interesting about Wikipedia, even though all the professors will, you can't use it as a resource. I'm going to tell you in some cases I think the information here is better than anywhere else because it's reviewed by many people. But the well-written Wikipedia pages have all these little citations, right? And then what you can do is you can go to wherever that reference is directly, and then use that as your source. So there's things that are better than others in terms of resources out on the internet. And it really takes a kind of a qualified and intelligent approach to figure out what works and what doesn't. Now, when you do find information, you can't just go to the website. So if I was looking at this website and like, hey, this is great information. I think I'm just gonna, grab this and paste it into my paper. I'm good. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. You must, if you are using the text verbatim, what do you have to do? You got to quote it and cite it. What if I just go to this website and go, oh, this person thinks that antivirus is stupid, right? So, you know what? I'm going to say antivirus is stupid. Is it my idea? No. The idea comes from somebody else. I didn't use their exact words, though. Do I still have to cite it? Somebody else's idea. Absolutely. Even if you don't, you guys hear me on this?
Yep.
Even if you don't use an exact quote, you're just borrowing the idea from them. You still need to cite it. Like if I've had people in the past write papers saying, is the best whatever. And I'm like, well, why do you say that? Did you sit there and compare 20 different products and figure out that this one's the best? You got that idea from somewhere. Where'd you get it from? Well, you got to cite it. Otherwise, it's plagiarism, folks. Here's the thing about academic work, and this is really important. In academia, it's actually something you should be proud of to cite somebody else's thoughts because it shows that you did the research and it shows that you thought about it, and all academic knowledge is built upon the shoulders of everybody that came before us. So I always tell people, I'd rather see a paper with that's like 1 page long with 30 citations saying where the information really came from than one where like somebody just throws a link at the bottom saying, yeah, I got it from here. Doesn't tell me what was cited. So if the idea is in a sentence, you got to cite it right after that sentence, not at the end of the paper. You got to be really, really careful because if you take an IT class, we might let you slide on that because I'm looking at your IT stuff. I'm not really worried about your English skills as much. But if you're in an English class, you're going to tech reporting or something, and you put the citation in the wrong spot, you will get hammered. And they will call it plagiarism because you're not citing it right where it's happening. It's a really important issue now in the era of copy-paste from the internet. Be really, really careful. Here's what happens in some schools. If you are caught plagiarizing, you might just get an F on the assignment. You might get an F in the course. And chances are if you do it more than once or twice, you're out of the school and done, and it goes on your academic record, and good luck in the future academically. It is major, major, major bad. It's one of the worst things you can do. The problem in the web world, and we've talked about this with images and content, it's so easy to go out and grab content. Academically, we can kind of squeeze by without citing it. Professionally, they come after you with lawyers. And it'll cost you a boatload of money to take care of it. Don't do it. It's just not worth it. Create your own stuff. If you're borrowing from somewhere else, let the world know. All right, let's move on to this last topic here, because chances are for most of you at some point, there's a really high likelihood, even for those of you that are full-time face-to-face, that you might have to take one of our courses online for whatever reason. You got to work a shift, on Fridays or whatever your situation is. And our evening students are more susceptible to this. So when they first developed the web program, the thinking was people who are working full-time can take the program at night or online and get their degree while they're working, right? Great idea. Absolutely. And to this date, the web program here at Gateway is the one that has the highest percentage of online students. Somewhere, it usually bounces somewhere between like 2/3 to 3/4 of our students are online. So you'll walk down the hall and you look in the classroom when Alan and Saad are teaching, and they're teaching in the software program, and every seat is filled. And then you walk past the web class with like Christian or Christopher or Wendy or I, and we got like 3 people in the classroom. The other 10 are online. And then we always do, like Ethan's online with us today, listening through Blackboard Collaborate. We always let our online students do that. And I also create videos like the one I'm making now, and I post it online. So the next day, the people in the online sections can kind of feel like they were in the classroom if they want to. But the approach to learning online is a lot different. When you're here in the classroom and you have a problem, you throw your hand up, I walk over, I look at your screen and say, oh, you messed up your code here, and we fix it and move on. But what if you're at home and you're online? Well, then you're going to take your problem and you're going to type up an email, and then you're going to send it to me, and then you're going to hope I answer it like immediately because I'm always sitting at my desk waiting for your emails, right? No, I mean, I got a really busy schedule and a really busy life inside and outside of campus, so I have times when I can plow through emails, but it takes a lot more to get help if you're online. So here's what we discover online. It actually is harder. It takes a lot more discipline because you're not going to the classroom each week and having this routine. So now it's on you to develop the routine, when you're going to study, when you're going to turn in your work. And I do try, and I know the other instructors do too, is to kind of develop a rhythm for online stuff. My typical rhythm is I don't release the whole course in advance. I could, but as with this course, it was each week I would release a new unit right as the class is starting, because I want to make sure that we're proceeding in a kind of a comfortable and reasonable fashion. I don't want to give you like the final project on day one, because then you're going to freak out. But then I get the online people who, I was like in my Java 2 class last night, and we were working on a couple of exercises, and I looked into my grade book, and I saw that I have several of my online people have already completed everything, and we're 2 weeks from the end. And I was like, okay. And then I told that to the people in class, and they're like, oh, wow. We're embarrassed. I'm like 3 weeks behind, So online, you have a different discipline. So that's a really interesting thing. Let's look at what we have written here, though. So there's a good chance that you're going to be taking courses that are going to be in an online format, or, as all the web courses are, with the exception of this one, all the other web courses, if you take them face-to-face, are some form of blended. Now, what that means is, for most of them, half the course is online and half is in person. So, for example, if you take Java 2 with me next semester, if it was a fully face-to-face class, it would meet 4 hours a week, either twice for 2 hours or once for 4 hours. But in the web program, we run our classes blended, meaning only 2 hours face-to-face. So what I do is, I don't like to run those coding classes where I sit there and lecture for 2 hours, kind of like I do in Web 1. I don't do that. I just walk in and say, did you guys all watch the lecture video? Did you guys all read the book? All right, let's code. Because if we don't get to the coding, that to me, that's the important part. So I have that whole course is pre-recorded. So I have all my lectures are pre-recorded. You know what? All the exercises are too. But I don't release those right away. But there's a different mindset there. All right, so it says you need different essential skills for working online, and you may or may not have received an orientation for online course skills, because there are some differences. So first of all, you need to be able to access the course online. So you guys all get into Blackboard. I use the same shells in Blackboard for my online classes that I do for my face-to-face. I design it to work with both. Some people do separate ones. Know how to get your username, password, and sign in. Understand the course requirements and expectations. It's easy when the instructor's like saying them to you every week, but when you're on an online course, you might read the syllabus once or what's in the course shell and then kind of move on. I think it helps if you know the instructor. So like, since you guys have all met me and now you take a class with me online, chances are you'll do better because you understand how I operate, right? And then if you need to reach out to me, you won't feel quite so intimidated. But sometimes online you get this intimidation factor. Okay, using the email system to send and receive email messages. And you guys know that Blackboard's got that little email thing built into it. You can do that, or what I would suggest is add your instructors to your contact list so that you can easily pull them up. How you would submit different types of assignments. So in this class, I try to give you a smattering of different types of assignments. So traditional assignments where maybe you write a paper, or you use a discussion board, or we've done wikis, and a couple of other weird little things. And those are to kind of prepare you for what you might face here at Gateway. I can tell you that in my classes, I very rarely use discussion boards. You'll take other classes, like typically Gen Ed, where the whole thing might be discussion board. Everything. So you got to be ready for that. And you can't just go in there and say, I agree, right? You have teachers tell you that too. Okay, reading discussion boards, posting responses, navigating the management system, viewing videos and using links. Now, some of us instructors here at Gateway will take the videos and embed them into the course shell, so you just like can hit play right inside the course. And that's never been my style. I always prefer to link you back out to YouTube because I think the tools are better on YouTube. It's just a philosophy thing. But I think that's pretty important. How you surf the internet, use a browser, and locate specific information. I think those are all pretty intuitive. All right, so the positives about learning online are this. All right, according to this list, convenience and flexibility. So the face-to-face people here today, you know that you have to be here today, right? And because it's Friday morning, you know, it's like barely awake, and I got my caffeine going, and I didn't have my donuts yet, or whatever your deal is. Or I was up till 3 a.m. playing video games, and now I'm here in the morning trying to go to school, right? And to see some of you smiling, because I know that's kind of been my son's pattern lately. You know, the thing is, you decide when you're going to do the stuff. There is still a pacing, though, for it. And the pacing will depend on your instructor. Like I said, when I do online instruction, I do not release the course all at once. You still get a weekly release of units. I make an announcement for every time like I add videos or the new unit comes out, and I try to keep an open line of communication to kind of say, okay, and this week we got a quiz, or this, don't forget to turn in your assignment, you know, and I'll do that kind of thing. The kind of interaction you're going to get from your instructor, frankly, is going to vary online. Some people are really good at it, and this is being really frank, and some people are not. And it's not a judgment upon them, but I'm pretty good at the online thing because I've been doing it for a really long time. And heck, I'm a web person, right? So I kind of, you know, have this philosophy about I think how it should operate. The learning is self-paced a little bit more to some degree. So like what workflow you get into, and even if you're a face-to-face student, there's like a pace. So like, for example, some of you might rush home right after class and do the homework. Yeah, right, okay. Maybe not. But some of you might say, okay, Saturday mornings is my homework day, or whatever. I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up. As you get deeper into the programming classes, for example, my Java 2 class, you can kind of count on spending 4 to 6 hours a week on just coding outside the classroom. Think about all your other classes too, if you're full-time. It can add up to like kind of like a part-time job or more. And then some teachers like me will walk through the exercises in class, like I do in my Python class, and some teachers won't. And it really kind of depends on the course. The reason I like to show people how to do the exercises is because they also hear the way I think about it and how I approach it, and maybe get you into the workflow and maybe establish your own pattern so that later on you're going to run into different things. All right. The other thing that I think is actually really good about online, you know, is you get time to think, and I highlight that one, right? Because there's a benefit to kind of being asynchronous. If I put you on the spot here in the classroom, if I single one of you out and ask you a question, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm like, okay, how do you blank, blank, blank with CSS? And then you're like, okay, Google, help, right? And you find an answer or whatever. But when you're online, you have a chance to think and reflect. And that's another thing that I tell students too, that, you know, it's kind of good when you need to solve a problem, and let's say you email the question in, because then I also have time to think about how to respond to it, and respond to it in a meaningful way. Time to respond also kind of assumes the fact that you're not just going to like send me an email message that's in the form of like a text, you know, with abbreviations and, you know, all this like vague talk. Do you have a format there where you can actually say something a little bit more verbose, throw in images, attach files, etc.? All right. Takes a lot of motivation if you're online. You really have to want to do it if you're online. I do find, and this is kind of strange, I find that my online students, when they're good students, are better than my face-to-face students. They seem to be smarter. They seem to have a better work ethic, because that's the only way you can succeed online. If you think that that's not an environment for you, I would suggest really strongly that you don't take a straight-up online class. I have had a number of people that have started their academic career here at Gateway online, and then over time transitioned to coming to the classroom, because they would listen to a video like this. Now, you guys are a really quiet group. I just want to tell you that. Probably one of the quietest groups I've had in a while. You don't talk much, you don't interact with me too much. But I have other classes where after the students get to know me after a while and we're working on stuff, you can hear the conversation in the background. You can hear the questions coming in. And people are like, I want to be part of that. I want to be there talking like those people are talking and solving the problems on the fly. And that can be an enriching experience. Without that, some people feel really disconnected. And I'm assuming that because you guys are in the classroom here, you guys are probably in that category. But then again, you know, once you've established that relationship and you get to know your classmates, you get to know your instructors, taking a class online sometimes may be your only option. You know, we were talking before about like registering and looking ahead. Don't be surprised if you haven't signed up yet and then you decide to do it like next week or the week after, that some of those sections are filled and then your only option is online. Let me give you a tip though. If you sign up online, and I don't know what like view you guys see in WebAdvisor anymore, if you see this view for looking up classes. Do you guys see this view? I'll take that as a maybe. All right. Yeah, you guys don't see this view. But if you're signing up for a class, some classes will be marked like this. So you see blended, right? That's a blended class. You notice little ST? That's a stack. And what that means is this is stacked. There's another course in this bundle here that's stacked. So this course and this course are really one section. They're combined together. And so if you happened to sign up for this and it was full and you ended up signing up for the web section, you could probably talk to your teacher and say, hey, I signed up for the web section. Is it okay if I come into the classroom? You know they're going to say yes. So I want you guys to be aware of that. I think that's pretty important. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges that come with online learning. But you know what? I've had people that I put all the way through the program here at Gateway that I've never met face-to-face or talked to until they get to the very end of their program when they take the web project management class, or web developer project class they call it now. And in that class, you have to have live meetings online. But even then, some of them would strictly be online. So I think that's pretty interesting. But you know what, folks? It's totally doable, but it is a different mindset. You got to be prepared for it. All right. The two assignments that we have in this unit are these. We have the upcoming courses, and what I'd like you to do here is to research 2 of the courses that you have planned coming up. And hopefully you're signed up for at least 2. If you're not signed up for 2, let me know why. you know, it's too much for me, or whatever the situation is. But here's the plan. If you want, if you're only planning on taking one a semester, you could still research the one you're going to take next semester and the one you're going to take the semester after that. And then go through that list there and answer the questions. Okay, pretty simple, really. The other thing is I have a discussion board activity about online courses, and you need to go to that forum, set up a post, and then respond to these questions, and in addition, make sure you respond to at least one other person. Now, this unit was pre-released before the holiday, right? It was released over two weeks ago, so the due dates on these are for this weekend. This should not take you more than a half hour, folks. This is at most a half hour's worth of work. So I think Sunday end of day is the due date on these. They go pretty quick. All right, last thing that I'm going to do before we wrap up here for the day with the orientation class is I want to look ahead to some of these other units. So we talked about the academic plan, and that was kind of a discussion that we were having a little bit earlier. But what I would like you to do is, if you haven't registered for spring, haven't seen your advisor, haven't registered for the upcoming semester is a better way to say it, please explore this stuff. This is a copy-paste right from the Gateway website, so if you actually look up academic advising, you'll find the exact same information and links to the exact same content. Okay, and if you want to go directly to the website, here's the link to that page. And if you've already visited Andrew or Pedro or Raquel or one of the advisors and have already worked out an academic plan, here's a chance for you to just basically screenshot it, follow the instructions here, and submit it and earn some extra credit. And it doesn't have to be that you've mapped out your whole academic career. That would be the ideal. But if you've mapped out spring, I'd take that for extra credit. So why not, right? All right. Next thing. All right, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of a preview. What we're going to talk about next time are professional portfolios and what those are and what they look like. And I want to check the due dates on this, honestly. This is extra credit too. Isn't that awesome? So that's what we're going to talk about next time. And then really the last major gradable thing you're going to have in this class is the final reflection, where you guys will compose a document answering these questions. Now, because the last day of class is next Friday, all the work for this class has to be done by midnight of next Friday in order for me to accept it. Past that point in time, you are taking your chances as to whether or not I'm going to accept it. So it might be that if I get caught up with all my grading, when I get done with the Web 1 class next week after we're done, and I can just go in there, grade everything really quick, I might post your grades right that afternoon. Actually, I won't, because I told you midnight, right? All right, so Saturday morning I would post your grades. And there's no guarantee that Saturday morning I would sit there and grade additional stuff. All right. So that's the roadmap for what's coming. So you have 2 assignments in Unit 12, 2 extra credit opportunities here. This is what we'll talk about next week, and then we'll do our final reflection and wrap up. All right, folks. Take care. Thank you. Video ends here.